Karen Carruthers, and today I have with me Deborah Arneson, clinical nutritionist. And the topic today is fat phobia. Deborah, can you tell us a little bit about the fat phobia that Americans are doing and what is the greatest problem that Americans have?
Well, they're gripped by fat phobia. I mean, I look at how many people are spending hundreds of dollars, like every month for fat-free items, which is totally unnecessary.
Right.
And the reason being is, everyone is so nervous about fat, but what they're not understanding is that there's fat and then there's fat. I mean, there are good fats,
Right.
there are bad fats, and there are really ugly fats.
Well,
This here, right here, Karen, this little fat guy, can our cameraman get a little good shot of that glob of fat? That's 1 pound of body fat.
wow.
If you look at this is why Americans are so concerned, but realize something that people don't know, and it's this, that fat comes from many different places. It doesn't just come from fat.
Okay.
Eating too many calories can cause you to become fat, even if they're healthy foods.
Right.
Eating not enough calories causes your body to store fat,
Right.
even if they're healthy foods. Your body just goes into what we call that starvation mode, which is conversion of energy into fat stores because it's being starved. That's typical in most women.
Right.
You can also gain a lot of body fat storage by not working out.
Okay.
You can gain a lot of body fat storage by eating too many carbohydrates.
Okay.
So people eating carbohydrates, 9 times out of 10, that is the problem. Even if they're not eating enough or they're eating too much, they tend to eat way too many carbohydrates. Now, well what are carbohydrates?
Right. Well, 2 questions. I was going to say, well, what is it about carbohydrates that causes fat to store in the body? Is it the sugar
Right.
that slows down the metabolism?
Well, it's a couple things. First of all, most carbohydrates are processed.
Okay.
So carbohydrates come in either a live form, like the good, the bad, the uglies again. The good would, of course, be our beans and our grains and our legumes, but more importantly, our fruits and vegetables. And they're what we call the simple sugared foods.
Okay.
And the simple sugared foods cause your body to create the art of metabolism. They have lots of live enzymes and vitamins and minerals. The starchier carbohydrates, like our legumes and rices and potatoes, tend to have longer sugar chains. They're more complex. So the longer the sugar chain is, the more you can store fat more readily. And then we have the really long sugar chain foods, which are our breads and our pastas, bananas, carrots. Even though they come from the fruit and vegetable category, they're high in sugar. And then we have the really long sugar chain foods, which are of course, our low-fat sugary treats. Our chips and our Fritos and Banditos and the low-fat Entenmann's and things like that. So,
But these are classified as fruits, vegetables, and carbohydrates. It seems like you're putting them all under the category of carbohydrates.
they are all carbohydrates.
Okay.
Fruits, vegetables, and starches are all carbohydrates, but they are differing types of carbohydrates, just like there are different types of fats.
I see.
So you need to be careful. Some people, because they've abused carbohydrates so greatly by doing pastas and breads and bagels all the time and donuts, and low-fat snack items which are processed, have been putting into their body like absolutely no live nutrients, no enzymes, no vitamins, no minerals. And when you do that consistently for a long period of time, what will happen is the system begins to break down. The stomach doesn't receive enzymes, so it goes, oh, I can't digest very well. So that carbohydrate will sit in the gut and putrefy and ferment. And because it sits there for a long period of time and it's not creating energy, you're constantly craving more carbohydrates or more sugar.
Even though you're storing fat?
Sure.
Oh.
Because you're not using it for nourishment, you're not using it for energy.
Right.
The art of metabolism hasn't been tapped into, so that's why it's important, as we discussed in the last show last week, to have a balance of proteins to fats and carbohydrates. The clue, the one thing that Americans are missing here, Karen, is fat, or good oil in their diet.
Okay.
Saturated fat comes from animals and
Okay.
animal byproducts, or palm or coconut oil. So people who eat too much of those foods or too much butter, of course, are going to gain body fat, but what's missing is the unsaturated fatty acids.
I see, which come from plants.
Plants, fish, seeds, nuts, and their oils.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people are I mean, do you eat seeds and nuts? I'm sure you do, because you're a vegetarian, right?
Yeah, I am vegetarian, but I am fat phobic.
Hallelujah!
So no, I don't eat that many seeds and nuts.
Well, they're the key to actually helping your body burn fat. If you get raw seeds and nuts in the right quantities, now let's really be specific about that. If you get the right quantity of your good raw unprocessed oils, avocado, olives, seeds and nuts in your diet, it's actually almost like a tease. And the body goes, oh, nice, I like that. That was fat. I needed some of that for metabolism.
Right.
And then your body, because it's not getting enough of those good unprocessed oils from you physically, will go into the fat storage tank, unlock the lock, pull out fat for energy. So to make your body go into the process of using fat for energy is very difficult. The body's very lazy.
Right.
It would much rather store fat than burn fat. So there's an art to doing that. You have to give it a little bit of a tease every time you eat with the right kind of unprocessed, unsaturated fatty acids.
I see. And how much fat is too much, and then how much is too little?
It would depend very much on your body size. That's
Okay.
where you would probably need a nutritionist or somebody who deals with diets,
Is this height according to weight or just body structure?
It would be body fat percentage, weight, and physical activity. That would
Okay.
determine how much fat, protein, and carbohydrate you need every single day. So you could take, you and I, say we weigh the same thing, we're weighing in at, well, how much do you weigh now, Karen? 135 pounds or something,
Right.
okay? And we're the same height, but because you might have a leaner percentage of body fat,
I
you know, you might
see.
be 22% and I'm 28%, you would need more oil or fat than I would because you have
see.
a faster metabolism.
Right.
And mine
okay.
is slower. So if somebody has 35% body fat, even though they're really skinny looking and they're little, you know, you could
Right.
grab them and go boing. With their fat, there's no muscle.
Right.
Then they would need less fat, protein, and carbohydrate every day.
Less fat, and they are a skinny person.
Well, there are skinny fat people.
Right, exactly.
So if
Okay.
someone's a skinny fat person, meaning that when you take their body fat, there's a lot of fat there, they're just
Right.
kind of squishy,
Right.
then that's somebody who obviously hasn't been eating enough protein and good essential fatty acids for a long time.
Okay. And how do you accept your clients to accept the idea of good essential fatty acids in their diet?
I tell them to trust me. So I go, just give me
That
your
does
body
it.
for 1 week.
Yeah.
And if I can have your body for 1 week, and I'll show you how good you feel and how you actually start burning fat and losing weight
Okay.
and increasing muscle over the course of a week. So once people, I say, you know, if you gained a pound in a week, what is that going to do? The worst case scenario is if I'm wrong, which I'm not, if I'm wrong, then you will actually gain weight. What could you gain in a week? No more than if you binged for a weekend, you know, a pound or
Right.
two.
Right.
So trust me and try it. So they do, and then they do it, and they're like, So they see that eating, you know, 15 to 30 grams of oil a day helps them to lose fat and to build muscle and to feel more energy. And once they do that, then I've got them hooked.
Okay. I see.
So
Okay. And then tell us again, what are the good, the bad, and the ugly fats?
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Well, the good fats, Karen, would be our unprocessed raw oils.
Okay.
And that would come from seeds and plants. So things like pumpkin seed oil, grapefruit seed oil. Your olive oil is a monounsaturated fat. I suggest people cook with that for the most part. But for raw eating without heating,
Right.
always use the lighter oils like flaxseed, rice bran oil, safflower, sunflower, things like that.
And how do you eat those foods, or how do you use those foods?
Glug, glug, glug. No, I'm kidding. Just make dressings with them, or I have a combination oil that I love. It's by Arrowhead Mills. It's called Essential Balance, and it actually has pumpkin, sesame, flaxseed, rice bran oil, and safflower all mixed into one
Wow.
oil, and it's organic, and it's real nutty tasting. And I literally just pour it on top of my food after I heat it. I put it on my vegetables and my meats and my rices and things like that.
Okay.
So you could do that, and then you could also do, you know, raw seeds and raw nuts like almonds and pistachios and even cashews or a macadamia nut here or there. I mean, those are unprocessed, good oils.
Right.
Avocado is
Right.
marvelous. People are phobic about avocado
Right.
because it's gotten such a bad rap, and avocado is marvelous.
Right. And that's a vegetable?
It's considered a fat.
Right. Just strictly a fat.
It's fat
But
because
it's a plant source fat.
it is.
Okay.
It has a seed in it.
Right. Exactly.
So it is a plant source fat, but avocado is considered a fat food because it is primarily fat. So when you look at foods in the world of nutrition, they're qualified as either a protein, a fat, or a carbohydrate, depending
Okay.
on the greatest constituent in that food.
Okay.
And then fish. Cold water fish are great. Those are unprocessed oils again. You know, cold water fish such as salmon, tuna, mackerel, herring, haddock, halibut, sea bass,
Right.
shark.
Oh.
Those are cold water fish, and they're very healthy for you.
Okay.
and they're really high in EPA oils. Now, unless you're pregnant or lactating, you know, then you need to be a little bit more careful of
The
cold
fish.
water fish, especially
Right.
fish in general.
Right.
You shouldn't be doing river, Pacific, or lake fish at all if you're
Oh.
pregnant or lactating.
I
They're too
see.
toxic, folks. So you don't want to, you know, you don't want to take those fish in. The reason the cold water fish are better is
Right.
because they're high in that body fat again.
The
They have
essential fatty acids?
right, the
Okay.
EPA oils.
Okay.
And those oils are what we call neutralizers for toxins and mercury and PCBs that
those
we
your-
dump into our water.
Are those the omega-3
Mm-hmm.
oils?
Exactly.
Okay.
Very good. I'm good at that. She's a nutritionist too.
And what do these oils provide for the cells?
Oh, the oils are marvelous for the cells. Your cells, of which we have billions of them, run around in the body, hopefully, and they're little dynamic, you know, little like shooting stars, and they have like a protein coat around them, and that protein coat is enhanced and made stable and dynamic and kind of like a coat of armor when you have plenty of essential fatty acids.
But doesn't the protein come from the protein, or it comes from the
Well,
oil?
there's a combination of protein and oils. The essential fatty acids create this protein coat.
I see.
You know, it's like a little coat of armor. It's like a raincoat around the protein. And it keeps out the bad guys and lets in the good guys. So if your cells become easily oxidized or, you know, subjected to carbon monoxide, which we breathe in our air, and different factors which we're exposed to environmentally,
Okay.
then the cells can actually die off. They burn up. And these essential fatty acids will help to stabilize the cells, let in the good nutrients, and create the process known as metabolism.
I
So they also help to burn fat, create energy. You see a lot of women with premenstrural problems and with cracked, brittle nails, dry, flaky skin. Chronic fatigue is very closely associated to hypothyroid, which is related to low essential fatty acids too. You see people with lusterless hair, doesn't have any swing body or shine to it.
Right, brittle.
Those are,
dry.
yeah, those are
Right.
people who are essential fatty acid deficient. I'll tell
Right.
you a great story.
What's that?
There was a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a long, long time, like 20-odd years, and he had really bad kind of eczema on his body, and his feet were all kind of cracked on the bottom. And I said, oh, you got to start taking this oil. This would be great. So he started taking the oil last fall.
Okay.
His feet are like a little, you know, baby's butt, he told me. He said they're really, really soft and
Soft,
cushy
right.
now. And it took like 6 months for the essential fatty acid to build up in the system
Okay.
and to work on his skin. So when your skin shows a deficiency, Karen, that's when you know you've had the deficiency for a very long period of time.
Right.
If you have
Over a
dryness
course
or
of time.
flakiness. So the skin is the last place to really manifest the symptom. It's been going on interstitially or internally for quite some time.
Okay, and then it comes on out through the skin.
Right.
Right. So how many grams do you suggest a day of essential fatty acids where you have the fats and the oils? You suggest servings from both groups?
Right. We
Okay.
suggest that people do both. Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, you need to, again, calculate. Like, let's say you're pregnant and you're weighing what? About what? Do you want to share?
155.
Okay, 155, and you're exercising how many days a week?
Oh, about 2 to 3.
2 to 3 days a
Right.
week. So right now, because you're pregnant, your needs for both protein, carbs, and fats or oils have gone up. Now remember, oils are unsaturated and fats are saturated.
Okay, so
Okay.
oils come from the plant source.
Plants, fish, seeds, and nuts, right?
And the fats come from the lean meats.
Saturated, yeah. Fats are
Okay.
found in chicken and turkey.
Right, exactly.
So Americans are sitting around eating turkey and chicken 6 days or 7 days a week, and they're like, "Bah." You know, I'm feeling a little porky.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you know, if you eat saturated fat all the time, is your primary, you know, nutrient source, you're not going to have the availability of those essential fatty acids in the diet because they just won't be options. People just won't go for them. So if you're eating chicken, you're not going to put, you know, a cedar nut in your mouth
Right.
for the most part because chicken's filling.
Right.
So you need to balance it. Your question was how much. I tell people to do 2/3 of their daily diet or their weekly agenda from unsaturated sources and 1/3 from saturated.
Okay. Saturated, why less?
Well, the reason being that it's not essentially necessary for the body. I mean, the body, unless you happen to be a marathon runner, you don't need saturated fat.
Okay.
You need unsaturated fatty acids. So it's very important to do fish like 4 days a week and to make sure that you get raw seeds, nuts, you know, avocado, olives, things like that every single day.
Every day.
Every day. Look
How
at
many
Karen.
servings
No,
are there?
she's starting to squirm and I just say, I don't like that. Please don't make me eat it. So, you know, someone your size who's pregnant and, you know, you'll be breastfeeding eventually, you should be doing upward of about 45 grams of good oil a day.
So what's the difference between the grams and the servings? How do you differentiate?
Oh, that's a good question. A serving would be, for instance, of saturated, a pat of butter, a teaspoon of mayonnaise.
Wow,
You know,
teaspoon.
that's 5 grams. Most Americans who are watching their fat intake tend to keep their fat intake under 20 or 25 grams a day. Under 30 is considered low fat. But most women are really phobic, and they do none.
Right,
You know, so they won't even do chicken or turkey. They end up doing bagels and pastas and breads.
Right.
And given that, they end up missing all their good essential fatty acids.
But what you said eventually converts to fat anyway.
Right. Too much
So-
sugar goes to what? Fat.
Fat,
And
yeah.
if you're doing low calorie and you're doing all sugar, you're just going to keep storing fat. Anyway, because your calories are so reduced and your body's starving.
Right.
So it's going, poor Karen can't get any fuel, so we're going to store this bagel as fat in case she never gets fat again.
Yeah.
You know?
And you mentioned earlier low-fat products like just low-fat cookies or low-fat desserts or
If they're low in fat, they are high in sugar.
right.
And
so
if
they're
it's
going to
low in
make
fat
up.
in a TV dinner, it's going to be high in sugar or sodium or
So-
some kind of, you know, sugar substitute. So it might be fructose, it might be dextrose, it might be something, you know, but it's going to be sugar, and sugar again will convert to fat.
And do you believe this to be even more detrimental?
I do.
Okay.
I do simply because I'm seeing Americans, Karen, across the board, and I've been doing this now almost 12 years. I'm seeing Americans showing up with problems with their thyroid, and they're hypoglycemic.
Okay.
And we're seeing a lot of moodiness. I mean, something like almost a third of Americans are on Prozac or some antidepressant.
Right.
That's amazing. People are
Yeah.
depressed because they're not getting any vitamins or minerals. They're not eating live foods. They're not
Right.
getting any essential fatty acids in their diet at all. So I
Okay.
think that's the biggest problem.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if I answered your other question about how much a day.
Yeah. How much? How many servings or how many? You said
Okay.
something about for myself as being pregnant, 45 grams. Well, how
Right.
much for?
Well, what that would equal for you, say 1 tablespoon of an unprocessed raw oil, which you really can only find in a health food store. You can't really find those oils in Jewel or
Right.
something like that. They don't carry them for the most part. But 1 tablespoon is 15 grams of fat.
15 grams is 1
Yes.
tablespoon. Okay.
Yes. For instance, I have...
So that's not a lot. I mean,
No.
1 tablespoon is not a
So
lot.
you should be doing at least 2 tablespoons a day, which would
Okay.
give you 30 grams of unsaturated fatty acids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good idea to rotate your oils. And then I would add in, if I were you, maybe 2 little handfuls of seeds or nuts,
Right.
which would put you at around 40. And then you could maybe do, you know, some avocado or some olives or something every single day.
Are there any seeds and nuts that are better than others as far as causing blockage in the digestive systems or the colon?
Well, they really don't cause blockage
No.
as much. You know, if you don't have a healthy functioning gut, then you just better eat live foods or get some digestive enzymes to help you out.
Okay.
But again, these good oils, Karen, lubricate the intestines.
I see.
Most of the time when I see people who are constipated, it's because they don't have any good oils.
Okay.
They don't have water, they don't have enough food, or they don't have good oils, or a combination of all three.
Right.
So if you get those essential fatty acids in, I think like a couple of the girls were mentioning last week, their biggest problem was giving up coffee and eating fat.
Right.
You know, what they consider to be fat. But again, it's a misnomer. This is fat right here. You know,
Okay.
that is a hunk of fat. That's 1 pound of body fat.
Right.
And you can see here, if you look at our different lists here, everything over here is basically man-made. Chocolate chip cookies, potato
Right.
chips,
Right.
a hot dog. You know, hot dogs aren't grown as hot dogs, or they're not raised as
Exactly.
hot dogs.
Yeah.
Frozen yogurt,
Yeah.
ice cream, donuts are 51% fat. You know, milk is 35. Skim milk is 5. That's nice. Pecan pie is 50%. Croissants are 50%. Cottage cheese is 42%, 14% in low fat. Cheddar cheese is 74% fat. Sour cream is 87%.
Okay.
Cheeseburger is 45% fat.
Look at that mayonnaise, 99% fat.
Mayonnaise 99%. Chocolate bar is 55%. A beef steak is 74% untrimmed. And chicken with a light without the skin is 24% fat. So these are either all saturated animal byproducts or they're man-made products, and they are all saturated.
Okay.
You know, people eat these, and it's okay to have these once in a while, but not all the time. And actually, you will find that you will burn more fat on your body physically if you consume more of those unsaturated fatty acids. You know, if you're nervous about it, you know, I'll tell our viewing audience the same thing. Start with a teaspoon 3 or 4 times a day. That's only 15 to 20 grams of essential fatty acids.
Right.
It's nothing.
Right.
And you'll find that you just start feeling a little bit better. And your energy goes up. And you start to burn a little bit of fat. I mean, I'm pretty liberal with my oil. I do like maybe, I had a chicken breast before I came to the show today, and it was maybe 6 ounces of chicken breast, and I put about a good tablespoon of my oil on it.
Wow.
And I didn't have any carbohydrate to eat with it, but,
Okay.
you know, I'll go have carbohydrate afterwards.
Okay. And when you talk about carbohydrates, what are the good carbohydrates again that one could consume?
Fruits
to
and
avoid-
vegetables. Can't get enough of those. The American Dietaries, not the American Dietary Association, the American Cancer Association did a really cool 10-year study. And the 10-year study was a study that showed that if Americans were to consume 9 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, they could reverse or completely avoid the onset of the 3 top prioritized cancers in the United States.
Prostate, breast cancer. And,
Yes,
yeah,
lung
colon.
is number 1.
Okay.
And a lot of people do not smoke, but they still have problems with lung cancer.
Wow.
And that's because our air is becoming more and more polluted. Number 2 is prostate and breast. And number 3 is colon and rectal.
Yeah.
So, you know, we talk about the colon a lot in my business. I mean, getting your bowels moving. Again, you need to have oils to lubricate. You need to have oils to make your minerals work well. You know, your minerals, your fats, your essential fatty acids, and your macronutrients like your proteins, you know, and carbohydrates all work together in unison.
Okay.
You know, they all have to be present at the same time every single day for your body to be loving you, you know, and loving your lean look. It's really amazing. So if you can manage to start doing some essential fatty acids, you know, that would be great.
Right.
So, Karen, start eating your raw seeds and nuts. It's really important.
Okay. Well, how would you describe a well-balanced diet between protein and fat and carbohydrates?
Well, I think the best diet for people to subscribe to is, now I see a lot of doctors telling people to cut out carbohydrates in their life.
Right.
And you know what? If they're not telling them to eat fats and to cut out carbohydrates, what's left?
Exactly.
Protein.
Protein, right.
So that's a misnomer. Don't just cut out carbohydrates and not replace it with oils and other carbohydrates like fruits and vegetables. So you have to make sure that you get your fruits and vegetables in every day. And again, if you follow the protocol implemented by the American Cancer Society, 9 servings a day equals at least 3 pieces of fruit a day,
Wow.
or a cup of strawberries, you know, a cup of grapes, that's 9 or 10 grapes
Right.
as a serving, and then at
Right.
least 2 to 4 cups of cooked or steamed vegetables a day.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Right. Right.
2 to 4 cups, that's a lot of vegetables. Most Americans eat a half a cup a day or a cup at the most. Maybe have a piece of fruit every day. So the rest of that caloric intake has to be taken up by what? Has to be taken up by carbohydrates
Right.
for the most part. Proteins for men, carbohydrates for women.
Okay. And why that distinction?
Women just are fat phobic.
Yeah.
You know, men are kind of like, well, I don't care. You know, I got a belly, so what? You know, men are just more casual about their looks than most women are. And men tend to work out more. I mean, when men work out, they stay working out. They love basketball. They love being
that's
out with their
true.
friends. They like to golf. So they get out and they do it. Women have more commitments for the
That's
most
true.
part. They have family, children. You know, everyone comes first, they come last.
Yeah.
And the most satisfying food, like, is carbohydrates. A woman I had today has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And she said, she wrote down her dietary intake, and I was like, whoa, she had like 2 crackers and 2 saltines at the kids' preschool thing. She had, you know, maybe a couple bites of her kids' Fruit Loops for breakfast.
Oh, no.
She had a couple bites of the SpaghettiO for lunch. So now what do we have? All carbohydrates.
All carbohydrates.
I think they had some candy as a snack in the afternoon. Around 6 o'clock, she was like, sugar! You know, get me sugar. So she had to like binge on a big bag of like Twix bars.
Yeah.
And she ate like half the bag, you know, for
Goodness.
dinner. And then when it came time to eat the real meal, she wasn't that hungry because she was really filled up on sugar and fat.
Right.
So all day long she starved, and what she did eat, she ate for the most part carbohydrates with no good oils and no balanced proteins in her diet.
Okay.
Not good.
Not at all.
So are you over being fat phobic? Have I talked you into eating good oils? What?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I can definitely see a benefit, and it's true that people are fatigued from the high levels of energy that sugar brings and then the sudden drop. Okay.
Well, carbohydrates do that. They take you up,
Okay.
they drop you down. They take your blood sugar up. What happens when you eat a carbohydrate, Karen, is the pancreas, which is nestled right underneath the tummy here, under the stomach, is signaled upon the release of glucose into the bloodstream, which comes from your carbohydrates, to release insulin. Insulin, as you well know, is known to bring down your blood sugar. So if you eat too many carbohydrates, glucose rises, insulin rushes into the bloodstream, brings your blood sugar down, but insulin, which should be an energy creator, if there's too much of it, is stored as fat.
The insulin is.
Yes.
I see.
So you'll see most of the time diabetics tend to be overweight. They can't regulate their insulin.
I see.
So if you have oil and good fats in your diet, essential fatty acids, it stabilizes insulin production. It keeps it very stable. Makes that release of insulin very slow and steady into the bloodstream. So it brings your blood sugar or your glucose up very slowly. Insulin comes out very slowly, and it maintains it for a longer period of time. Whereby if you just do carbohydrate by itself, your blood sugar goes very high. Insulin also rises very high at the same time, and then boom, it drops very low. So you end up going like this all day long. I'm on a roller coaster ride. Blood sugar up, blood sugar down. And then there's no stabilization. I mean, people are generally very moody and grouchy and very hypoglycemic. And over the course of time, it will lead to diabetes, to do nothing but carbohydrates and no oils.
I see.
Not a good thing.
Right, right.
It's amazing. You know, there's like a release for us women to start eating fats and oils, the good stuff.
Right.
Because once you do it, you realize that, boy, my body's been missing this forever. And energy goes so high and your skin becomes so beautiful, you know, and you become so healthy. I mean, I have to say at my age, which is 44 this year, I'm the healthiest I've ever been.
Wow, that's fantastic.
You know, and I probably look better than I've ever looked with the least amount of effort.
Right.
I mean, in my 20s, I had to work out 7 days a week, and I still couldn't stand my body.
Yeah, simply by just adding fats.
Good essential fatty acids and balancing your diet.
And the problem with the carbohydrates is the refining process. Right.
Exactly. A carbohydrate is not a real food.
Right.
It's a processed food.
Okay.
And fats are real if they come from real sources like your fish, you know, your essential fatty acids from seeds, nuts, oils, and avocados.
Okay, and quickly, can you just give us a percentage of a well-balanced diet, like 40, 20, 60?
I would say for essential fatty acids, you should get in at least 30% oils, 30% carbs, and 40% proteins.
Okay, well, we are running out of time.
Again?
Yeah. And thank you definitely for joining the show
thanks
tonight.
for having me, Karen.
And again, I'm Karen Carruthers, and thank you for joining Health Exposures. Good night.